I stood there, frozen, my suitcase still clutched in my trembling hand as the door closed in my face. The cheerful Christmas wreath swayed mockingly in the December breeze, its red bow a stark contrast to the cold rejection I'd just received. My wife doesn't want strangers at dinner. My son's words hung in the frosty air between us. Strangers. After carrying him for 9 months, after 38 hours of labor, after 47 years of being his mother, I was a stranger. My name is Martha Wilson, 68 years old, and I had just flown across the country from Boston to San Diego because my son James had finally called after 3 years of painful silence. "We'll see you at Christmas, Mom," he'd promised, his voice bright with what I'd thought was genuine excitement. For weeks, I'd lived on that promise, marking off days on my calendar, shopping for gifts for grandchildren whose faces I knew only from rare social media photos I'd managed to glimpse. The airport had been absolute chaos, a 5-hour delay due to winter storms. I'd sat there, clutching my purse, refusing to leave even to use the restroom for fear of missing an announcement. No food, just weak coffee and anticipation. When we finally boarded at 9 p.m., I couldn't sleep a wink, imagining the reunion, rehearsing what I'd say, how I wouldn't cry, how I'd be perfect and pleasant and not say anything that might upset Caroline, my daughter-in-law. Caroline. From the moment James introduced us, I'd seen something calculating behind those perfectly made-up eyes. Always immaculate, always watching, measuring everything and everyone for their value to her. After the wedding, the calls from James grew less frequent, then stopped altogether. Christmas cards returned unopened, birthday messages left unanswered. But this year was different. This year, he'd called. This year, I'd believed. The taxi had dropped me off at 11:43 p.m. I remember checking my watch, thinking it was late, but they'd be waiting up. The porch light was on. Through the window, I could see their magnificent Christmas tree, glittering with ornaments that probably cost more than my monthly pension. Music played softly inside. Silent night. Oh, the bitter irony. I'd barely pressed the doorbell when it swung open. James stood there, not with open arms, but with a stricken look. Behind him, Caroline, arms crossed, lips tight, wearing what looked like an expensive cocktail dress, as if they'd been entertaining. Real guests, not strangers like me. "Mom," he'd said, shifting uncomfortably. "You're late. We weren't sure you were coming anymore." "The storm," I began, but Caroline cut me off. "We've already had dinner. The kids are in bed." Her voice was ice, sharp enough to cut glass. I nodded, forcing a smile. "That's okay. I'm just happy to be here." Then James looked back at Caroline, who gave him the slightest nod, a signal I recognized immediately. A puppeteer pulling strings. He turned to me, his face a mask I couldn't read. "My son, yet not my son. Look, Mom, there's been a misunderstanding. We were expecting you for dinner, not to stay. Caroline doesn't want strangers at our family Christmas." I felt my heart crack, but held my face still. "James," I whispered, "I'm your mother." "It's been 3 years, Mom," he said, as if that explained everything. Things change. People change. Then the door closed. Just like that. No goodbye, no sorry, no Merry Christmas. I stood there, light snow beginning to dust my shoulders, wondering what I'd done to deserve this, what terrible crime I'd committed as a mother that warranted such cruelty. The memory of James as a little boy flashed through my mind, how he used to run to me with treasures he'd found, how I'd worked 3 jobs after his father died to ensure he had everything he needed, how I'd sat up nights helping him with college applications. Through the window, I caught a glimpse of Caroline's triumphant smile as she turned away. But just before, I saw something else. She was looking at a magazine, open to a page featuring Harrington House, that magnificent historical mansion on the hill that the elite of San Diego coveted so desperately. The one Caroline had mentioned in the few conversations we'd had, her eyes gleaming with ambition. "Whoever owns that house owns this town," she'd once said. If only she knew. I don't know how long I stood there, my tears turning cold on my cheeks. But eventually, I set my suitcase down and took out a pen and the small notepad I always carry. My hands shook as I wrote, but my mind was suddenly crystalline clear. Sometimes, when you have nothing left to lose, the truth flows easily. When I finished, I folded the note carefully and walked to their mailbox. I slipped it inside, picked up my suitcase, and called another taxi. 3 days later, as I sat in my small but elegant apartment back in Boston, my phone began to ring, then ring again, and again. Text messages flooding in, voicemails filling up. I watched the phone vibrate across my antique writing desk, the desk where I'd signed the papers just last month, papers that would change everything. I let it ring, because sometimes silence speaks louder than words, and sometimes the most devastating weapon isn't revenge, it's truth. If you're captivated by Martha's story of betrayal and hidden power, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss what happens next. What did Martha write in that note? What secrets does this seemingly ordinary mother hold? The answers will shock you. For 3 days, my phone wouldn't stop ringing. James's name flashed on the screen so often, I considered blocking him. 47 calls, 63 text messages, each one more desperate than the last. Mom, please call me. We need to talk. What did you mean in your note? Mom, this is serious. Please, Mom, I'm begging you. I watched snow fall outside my window, remembering how James used to build snowmen with me, his little hands red with cold, but his face alight with joy. That child was gone now, replaced by a man who called his mother a stranger. On the 4th day, at precisely 9 a.m., I finally answered. Martha Wilson speaking. My voice was steady, practiced, the voice I'd used in boardrooms for decades before my retirement. Mom! James sounded breathless, as if he'd been running. Thank God! I've been trying to reach you for days. Have you? I kept my tone light, conversational. I've been rather busy. Mom, your note. Is it true? All of it? I smiled to myself, though there was no joy in it. Every word, James. The silence stretched between us, heavy with the weight of revelations. You own Harrington House? His voice was barely above a whisper. The one Caroline's been trying to get us invited to for years? The one that never goes on the market? I purchased it through my holding company in 1987, I said simply. Your father and I had planned to retire there. After he died, I couldn't bear to live in it, but I couldn't sell it either. Sentimental value, I suppose. And the trust fund? $12 million? Your grandfather was a prudent man. He set it up to mature on your 48th birthday. That's next month, isn't it? January 15th? I heard what sounded like a glass breaking in the background. Is Caroline listening? I asked, though I already knew the answer. Yes, James admitted. You're on speaker. Hello, Caroline, I said pleasantly. I assume you've read my note? Her voice came through, tight and controlled, but I could hear the rage simmering beneath. Martha, there's clearly been a misunderstanding. James and I would love for you to come back and spend Christmas with us. The children have been asking about their grandmother. I nearly laughed. Children who had never met me asking about me? The lie was so transparent it was almost insulting. That's very kind, I replied, but I'm afraid I have other plans. What other plans? James asked. Mom, please, we need to talk about this face to face. About what exactly, James? About how you let your wife call me a stranger? Or about how she's been systematically sabotaging your career to keep you dependent on her family connections? Another silence, heavier than the first. What are you talking about? His voice had changed, confusion replacing desperation. The promotion at Westridge Partners last spring, the one you were passed over for. Did you know you were actually the board's first choice? Did you know Caroline met privately with Richard Westridge and convinced him you weren't ready? I have the recording, James. Would you like to hear it? I heard movement, muffled voices, the sound of a door closing. When James spoke again, Caroline was clearly no longer in the room. Mom, this can't be true. Caroline wouldn't do that. Just like she wouldn't intercept my letters, my birthday cards to the children, the Christmas presents I sent every year. I kept my voice gentle. This wasn't about hurting my son. It was about opening his eyes. She said you never sent anything. I have the tracking confirmations, James. Everything was delivered and signed for. I paused. By Caroline. His breathing had grown ragged. I could picture him running his hand through his hair the way he always did when distressed. Why are you telling me this now? He finally asked. After all this time? The question struck me like a physical blow. Why now, indeed? Because I'd been a coward? Because I'd been afraid of losing him completely? Because, I said slowly, I believed that one day you would remember who you were, who we were. I kept hoping, James, until 3 nights ago when you closed the door. Mom, His voice broke. I'm so sorry. I'm not looking for apologies, James. But I am the trustee of your grandfather's estate. I have certain responsibilities. The terms are clear. The beneficiary must demonstrate sound financial judgment. If I determine that the money would be subject to undue influence or mismanagement, I have the power to redirect it to charitable causes. You wouldn't do that, he said, but uncertainty colored his words. Wouldn't I? 3 days ago, you called me a stranger. Why would a stranger leave you millions of dollars? The truth hung between us, sharp, undeniable. What do you want me to do? He finally asked. That's entirely up to you, James. But know this. I have a meeting with my lawyers on December 26th, the day after Christmas. Whatever decisions you make between now and then will determine my decisions thereafter. You're blackmailing me? Hurt and disbelief warred in his voice. I'm giving you a choice, I corrected gently. Which is more than you gave me when you shut that door. I heard a commotion in the background, Caroline's voice growing louder, demanding to know what I was saying. I should go, James said hurriedly. Yes, you should, I agreed. You have a lot to think about. Just before he hung up, I added, Oh, and James, the passcode to the email account mentioned in my note is your birth date. Everything is there. The recordings, the documents, the proof, all of it. The truth doesn't ask to be believed. It only asks to be seen. After I hung up, I sat motionless, staring at the phone. My hand trembled slightly as I reached for the photograph on my desk. James at his college graduation, beaming with pride, his arm around my shoulders. The last time I truly recognized my son. The door to my apartment opened, and Eleanor, my oldest friend, stepped in with grocery bags. You finally talked to him? She asked, setting the bags down. I nodded, unable to speak. And? She prompted, sitting beside me. And now we wait, I whispered, to see if my son still exists inside the man Caroline created. Eleanor squeezed my hand. He does, Martha. He's in there. And you just threw a grenade into the fortress keeping him prisoner. That night, I dreamed of Harrington House, its sweeping staircases, its garden views, the life I might have had there with my husband, the Christmases we might have shared with our son and his children. Dreams of what never was, what might yet be. My phone pinged at 3:17 a.m. A text from James. I opened the email. We need to talk. I'm coming to Boston. The Boston winter welcomed James with a blizzard. His flight was nearly diverted, but somehow he made it. I watched from my window as the taxi pulled up, as my son stepped out into the swirling snow, looking up at my building with uncertainty written across his face. I'd chosen this apartment specifically for its unassuming exterior. A modest brick building in Back Bay. Nothing that would suggest its residents might include someone who controlled millions in assets. Nothing that would hint that apartment 4B housed the anonymous owner of Harrington House, the crown jewel of San Diego real estate. The buzzer rang. I pressed the intercom. 4th floor, I said simply, then released the door. Those 3 minutes it took him to climb the stairs were an eternity. I smoothed my cardigan, touched my silver hair, wondering if he would see the changes time had etched into my face, or if he would see only the stranger Caroline had convinced him I was. The knock, when it came, was hesitant. 3 soft taps. I opened the door to find my son looking more haggard than I'd ever seen him. Dark circles shadowed his eyes. His usually immaculate hair was disheveled, as if he'd been running his hands through it repeatedly. He'd lost weight since Christmas Eve. Mom, he said, and the words seemed to catch in his throat. James, I responded, stepping aside. Come in. He entered slowly, eyes taking in my home, a place he'd never visited. His gaze lingered on the photographs arranged on the bookshelf, most of him at various ages, the trophies he'd won in high school, the framed article about his first job at Westridge Partners. You've been following my career, he said quietly. Did you think I wouldn't? I gestured to the sofa. Sit, please. You look exhausted. He sank down, dropping his head into his hands. I don't even know where to begin. I settled in the armchair across from him, folding my hands in my lap. The beginning is usually a good place. He looked up, and for a moment, I saw the little boy who used to come to me with scraped knees and broken toys, trusting me to fix everything. The recordings, he said. Caroline, she really did all those things? Yes. She told Richard Westridge I wasn't ready for the promotion. She intercepted your letters, your gifts. Yes, his voice faltered. She's been lying to me for our entire marriage. I believe so. Yes. He stood abruptly, pacing to the window. Why didn't you tell me? Years ago, when it started happening. Why didn't you fight harder to reach me? The question pierced me like a shard of ice. I'd asked myself the same thing countless times. At first, I didn't know, I admitted. I thought perhaps you were busy, building your new life. Then I suspected, but I had no proof. By the time I obtained the evidence, you seemed happy, James. Or at least I convinced myself you were. Happy? He gave a bitter laugh. Do you know what my life has been like? The constant pressure from Caroline to climb the social ladder, to make more money, to get invited to the right parties, the way she criticizes everything I do, everything I am? No, I said softly. I don't know, because you shut me out. He flinched as if I'd slapped him. She made it sound so reasonable. She said you were controlling, that you disapproved of her, that you were trying to manipulate me. And I believed her because it was easier than admitting I'd made a mistake. He turned to face me fully. But Harrington House? The trust fund? Mom, who are you? Really? I smiled faintly. I'm exactly who I've always been, James. Your father and I were more successful than we let on. We wanted you to develop your own work ethic, your own path. The trust from your grandfather was meant to give you freedom later in life, not to define you. And Harrington House? The house Caroline's been obsessed with since we moved to San Diego? An investment. Your father had a good eye for property. I paused. Caroline's been trying to get invited there, I understand? James sank back onto the sofa. It's all she talks about. The historic holiday party they host every year, the social connections. If we could just get our foot in that door, she always says. He looked up suddenly. The irony is that I have the only key, I finished. A moment of silence stretched between us, and then, unexpectedly, James began to laugh. It started as a chuckle and grew until tears streamed down his face. Whether from mirth or pain, I couldn't tell. All this time, he gasped between breaths. She's been chasing approval from society, and my own mother, the woman she's been poisoning me against, holds the keys to the kingdom she's desperate to enter. I waited for his laughter to subside. James, why did you come here? He sobered instantly. She doesn't know I'm here. I told her I had a business trip to New York. He leaned forward. After I saw the emails, the recordings, I started watching her more carefully, checking things she told me, finding inconsistencies. And last night, I found a burner phone in her desk drawer. She's been texting someone, a man, planning meetings. My heart sank. I'm sorry, James. Don't be. His voice hardened. It confirms everything you've been saying, everything I was too blind to see. He reached for the briefcase he'd brought, opening it to remove a folder. I found these too, financial records. She's been moving money from our joint accounts into a private one. Small amounts, but over years. Nearly $100,000, I said quietly. His head snapped up. You knew about this too? I've had people keeping an eye on your finances for the trust fund evaluation. People? What people? I hesitated, then decided complete honesty was the only path forward. I'm on the board of Westridge Partners, James, anonymously, through a holding company. His face went slack with shock. What? That's not possible. I would know. Would you? How often do you interact with the board? The actual board, not just the executive team? Almost never, he admitted. The board members are reclusive, private. By design, I said. We prefer to evaluate talent from a distance. We? His eyes narrowed. Mom, what exactly are you telling me? I rose, walking to my desk where I unlocked the bottom drawer. From it, I withdrew a leather portfolio embossed with the Westridge Partners logo. I handed it to him. Your father didn't just work for Westridge, he founded it, with Richard Westridge. When he died, I inherited his shares. I've been a silent partner ever since. James opened the portfolio with trembling hands, scanning the documents inside. Stock certificates, board meeting minutes, investment reports. His name appeared repeatedly in talent evaluations, each one glowing with praise. You've been watching my entire career, he whispered. Not controlling it, I corrected gently. Watching. There's a difference. Does Caroline know any of this? I don't believe so, though she clearly suspects there's money somewhere, hence her interest in your promotion. In Harrington House, he closed the portfolio slowly. What happens now? That depends on you, James. On me? He looked confused. You're the one holding all the cards. I shook my head. No, I'm holding information. Truth. What you do with it is your choice. He was silent for a long moment, staring at his hands. When he looked up, his eyes were clearer than I'd seen them in years. I want my life back, he said firmly. My real life. Not this performance Caroline's orchestrated. I want my mother back. I want my children to know their grandmother. My heart swelled, but I kept my voice steady. And Caroline? His jaw tightened. I need to confront her with everything. And then, he took a deep breath. And then, I need a good divorce attorney. I nodded, allowing myself to feel the first fragile tendrils of hope. I can help with that. I know you can. For the first time since he'd arrived, he smiled, a genuine smile that reached his eyes. You've been helping me all along, haven't you? Even when I shut you out. That's what mothers do, James. He reached across the space between us, taking my hand in his. I don't deserve your forgiveness. Probably not, I agreed, squeezing his fingers. But you have it anyway. As the snow continued to fall outside, casting my apartment in a soft, diffused light, James began to tell me about my grandchildren. Emma, age 7, who loved to read just like her father had. Tyler, age 5, who could already solve complex puzzles. Children I'd never met, but had sent birthday gifts to every year. Gifts Caroline had hidden away. They'll love you, James said confidently. Once they're free from Caroline's influence, they'll love you. I didn't tell him how those words broke and healed my heart simultaneously. I didn't tell him about the nights I'd cried myself to sleep, wondering if I'd ever hear my grandchildren's voices. Instead, I simply said, I'd like that very much. As evening approached, James looked at his watch reluctantly. I have to go. My flight back is in 3 hours. So soon. I need to do this right, Mom. For the kids. I can't just disappear. I need evidence, legal protection. His expression grew determined. But I'm coming back. We all are. For Christmas. The real Christmas we should have had. As I walked him to the door, he turned suddenly and pulled me into a fierce embrace. I'm so sorry, he whispered against my hair. I know, I said, holding him just as tightly. I know. After he left, I stood at the window watching until his taxi disappeared into the swirling snow. Then I picked up my phone and made a call. Eleanor, it's Martha. I need you to contact the caretaker at Harrington House. Tell him to prepare for guests. I paused, a smile spreading across my face. And I think it's time we hosted that famous Christmas party everyone's so desperate to attend, don't you? Caroline called me the next morning, her voice dripping with artificial sweetness. Martha, what a lovely surprise. James told me he ran into you in New York. Such a coincidence. I held the phone slightly away from my ear, amused by the transparent lie. So James hadn't revealed his Boston visit. Interesting. Did he? I kept my tone neutral. How nice. Yes, and we've been talking. A practiced pause. We feel terrible about Christmas Eve. There was a misunderstanding, and with the children sick, I was so stressed. The children had been sick? Another lie. They'd been asleep, according to James. I wondered how many falsehoods Caroline had woven over the years, a tapestry of deception so intricate that even she might have lost track of its pattern. These things happen, I said mildly. We'd love to make it up to you. Her voice brightened. In fact, we're hosting a small gathering for New Year's Eve. Nothing fancy, just close friends and family. We'd be honored if you'd join us. Close friends and family. The irony wasn't lost on me. That's very kind, Caroline. May I ask what prompted this sudden change of heart? A slight hesitation. James and I have been reflecting on family values. The holidays make one sentimental, don't they? Family values. From the woman who'd called me a stranger to my face. They certainly do, I agreed. Especially when $12 million is involved. The silence that followed was so complete, I could hear her breathing change. Faster, shallower. I'm not sure what you mean, she finally managed. No? James didn't mention our conversation about his grandfather's trust fund. How curious. Another silence then. He mentioned something. But honestly, Martha, that has nothing to do with our invitation. We genuinely want to reconnect. Of course you do. I allowed a hint of steel to enter my voice, just as you genuinely intercepted my letters and gifts to my grandchildren for years. What? That's absurd. James, tell her. I heard muffled sounds, a hand clearly covering the phone, urgent whispers. When Caroline returned, her voice had a strained quality. "Martha, I think there's been some confusion. Perhaps we should discuss this in person. At our New Year's gathering?" "I'm afraid I have plans for New Year's Eve," I said. "I'm hosting a party at Harrington House." The sharp intake of breath was audible even through the phone. "Harrington House? You're attending their party?" "Not attending, Caroline. Hosting. I own Harrington House." The silence stretched for so long, I wondered if the call had dropped. That's not possible," she finally whispered. "The Harrington estate has been owned by the same anonymous investor for decades." "Indeed it has," I agreed pleasantly. I could almost see her mind racing, recalculating every interaction we'd ever had, every dismissive comment, every condescending smile. "I don't believe you," she said, but uncertainty wavered in her voice. "Your belief isn't required for something to be true, Caroline. The deed is a matter of public record, though it's held by my company rather than my name. James has seen the documentation." "James knows about this?" Her voice had risen an octave. "He knows everything now," I said softly. "The trust fund, Harrington House, your meeting with Richard Westridge to sabotage his promotion, your text messages to Michael Crawford." Her gasp was sharp, pained. "How did you—" "As I said, James knows everything now. The only question remaining is what he chooses to do with that knowledge." "You've poisoned him against me," she hissed, the sweet facade crumbling completely. "You couldn't stand that he chose me over you, so you fabricated these lies. They would be easier to dismiss if they were lies, wouldn't they?" I kept my voice gentle, almost sympathetic. "But we both know they aren't. What do you want?" The question came out ragged, desperate. "Want? I'm not the one who wants something, Caroline. I'm not the one who's been scheming for years to climb a social ladder. I'm not the one who married a man for his potential inheritance." "You can't prove that," she said quickly. Too quickly. "Can't I? The prenuptial agreement you refused to sign might suggest otherwise. The sudden interest you took in James after meeting my friend Eleanor at that charity event where she mentioned his family connections." Another shocked silence. I could almost hear the pieces clicking into place in Caroline's mind. "Eleanor Winters?" she finally asked. "Your friend Eleanor is Eleanor Winters from the Boston Symphony fundraiser?" "The very same. You made quite an impression, asking all those questions about the Wilson family finances immediately after learning James's last name. This is insane. You've been spying on me since before I even met James?" "Not spying, Caroline. Protecting. There's a difference." I paused, though clearly I didn't protect him well enough. The sound that came through the phone was something between a laugh and a sob. "You have no idea who you're dealing with." "On the contrary," I said calmly. "I know exactly who I'm dealing with. The question is, do you?" I ended the call before she could respond, placing my phone carefully on the table beside me. My hands were steady, my breathing calm, but my heart raced with an emotion I hadn't felt in years. Purpose. Eleanor called an hour later. "Caroline's been making inquiries about Harrington House ownership records," she reported, rather frantically according to my contact at the county clerk's office. "Good," I said. "Let her look. The truth is there for anyone willing to see it." "Martha," Eleanor's voice grew serious, "be careful. Cornered animals are dangerous. So are mothers protecting their children," I reminded her, "even when those children are 47 years old." That night, James texted me, "Caroline's acting strange, asking questions about Grandpa, about family money. What did you say to her?" I replied simply, "The truth. Be vigilant. The game has begun." The invitation arrived at homes across San Diego 3 days later. Cream-colored cardstock with elegant gold embossing. "Mrs. Martha Wilson requests the pleasure of your company for the revival of the Harrington House Holiday Gala, December 31st, 8 p.m. My phone rang minutes after the first invitations were delivered. "You're really doing this," James said, sounding both amazed and apprehensive. "I believe I am," I replied, checking my list of acceptances. Already 32, including the mayor and 2 state senators. The Harrington House Gala had once been the social event of the season. Its revival after 15 years was causing quite the stir. "Caroline received her invitation this morning," James continued. "She's not well." "Oh?" She locked herself in the bathroom for an hour. When she came out, She started making calls, dozens of calls, to everyone she knows who might have connections to Harrington House. I smiled to myself. And what did she learn? That Martha Wilson, the mysterious widow from Boston who rarely makes public appearances, has owned the property for decades, that you're not just wealthy, but connected to half the important families on the East Coast. He paused. That I've been, as one of her friends put it, catastrophically stupid not to have cultivated a better relationship with my own mother. People can be unkind, I murmured. In this case, they're not wrong. His voice grew quiet. Mom, there's something you should know. Caroline's planning something. My pulse quickened. What kind of something? I'm not sure yet. She's been making calls from her burner phone, meeting with someone yesterday. Not Michael Crawford, someone new. And she's been asking questions about the trust fund, about its terms. Has she approached you directly? No, she's being unusually nice, attentive, talking about family therapy, about healing our marriage. But I've seen this performance before. It means she's plotting. I considered this information carefully. The trust documents are ironclad, James. My father, your grandfather, was nothing if not thorough. It's not just the trust I'm worried about, James admitted. It's the children. Since I confronted her about the text messages, she's been keeping them especially close, canceling play dates, picking them up early from school, almost like she's preparing. A chill ran through me. You think she might try to leave with them? I don't know. Maybe I'm being paranoid, but I've never seen her like this, cornered, desperate. It scares me. Have you spoken to a lawyer yet? Yesterday. He's preparing divorce papers but advised me to gather more evidence before filing. Caroline's family has connections in the legal community here, which is why you'll be using my attorneys in Boston, I said firmly. They're already drawing up custody documents. Forward everything you have, the texts, financial records, recordings, to the secure email I sent you. I will. He hesitated. There's one more thing. Caroline's insisting we attend your party. Together, as a family. This surprised me. Even after everything? She says it's important to keep up appearances, that we can't let rumors start, but I think she wants to confront you, or worse, humiliate you somehow. Let her try, I said calmly. Harrington House has weathered many storms over the centuries. One more won't matter. Mom, be careful. You don't know what she's capable of. But I did know. I'd been watching Caroline's machinations for years. The calculated social climbing, the subtle manipulation, the isolation techniques she'd used on my son. Caroline was dangerous precisely because she presented such a perfect facade to the world while operating in shadows. Trust me, James. I've faced worse adversaries in my life. Who even are you? He asked, a note of wonder in his voice. This confident, strategic woman who owns mansions and outmaneuvers socialites? I'm the same person I've always been, I said softly. The mother who read you bedtime stories and bandaged your scraped knees. The woman who ran your father's company after he died, who sat on boards and made investments while maintaining the modest life we believed would give you better values. Why didn't I see it? All those years. Because I didn't want you to. Your father and I agreed. You needed to find your own path, not live in our shadows. After we hung up, I sat for a long time at my desk, looking at the photograph of my late husband, Robert. His kind eyes seemed to assess me from across the decades. I'm bringing our boy home, I whispered to his image, whatever it takes. That evening, Eleanor and I finalized the plans for the gala. Caterers, musicians, floral arrangements flown in from Holland. No expense spared. If this was to be my re-entry into society after years of intentional obscurity, it would be nothing less than spectacular. Caroline will try something, Eleanor warned as we reviewed the guest list. You know that, right? I'm counting on it, I replied, adding another name to the VIP section. In fact, I'm making it easy for her. Eleanor raised an eyebrow. Martha Wilson, are you setting a trap? I prefer to think of it as creating an opportunity. I smiled. For Caroline to reveal herself in front of the very society she's so desperate to impress. My phone chimed with a text from James. Emma asked about you today. Is Grandma really having a princess party in a castle? Caroline was livid. My heart swelled at this first acknowledgement from my granddaughter. Tell her it's not quite a castle, I typed back, but her grandmother would be honored to give her a tour. Another message appeared moments later. Tyler wants to know if there will be cookies. Tears pricked my eyes. More cookies than he could possibly eat, I promised. That night, I dreamed of my grandchildren running through the gardens of Harrington House, their laughter echoing off century-old stone walls. In the dream, James watched them from the terrace, smiling, free from the shadow that had darkened his life for so long. I awoke with renewed determination. The chessboard was set. Carolyn had made her career isolating and controlling my son. Now she would learn what happens when a mother finally says, enough. This family drama of secrets, power, and redemption has captivated thousands. Drop a comment telling us where you're watching from, and subscribe to catch the next chapter. The Harrington House Gala is approaching, and the confrontation between Martha and Caroline promises to be unforgettable. I returned to San Diego 5 days before the gala, settling into Harrington House with Eleanor by my side. The mansion awakened around us, chandeliers polished to brilliance, hardwood floors buffed to a mirror shine, gardens sculpted to perfection despite the December chill. Standing in the grand foyer, watching staff transform the space with garlands and white roses, I felt a strange homecoming. This house had been an investment, a memory, a secret, never truly a home. Now, perhaps, it could become one. Mrs. Wilson, the house manager, Henderson, approached with a silver tray. "There's been a delivery for you." On the tray sat a small box wrapped in expensive paper, tied with a silk ribbon. The card read simply, "A peace offering. Caroline." Eleanor eyed it suspiciously. "Don't open it." I carefully untied the ribbon anyway. Inside the box nestled a delicate crystal ornament, a perfect miniature of Harrington House itself, expertly crafted. "Well," Eleanor said, examining it, "you have to admire the audacity." "A reminder that she knows where I live," I noted, placing the ornament on the mantelpiece. "How considerate." My phone rang. James. "Caroline just told me she sent you a gift," he said, his voice tense. "What was it?" I described the ornament. He exhaled sharply. "Mom, she spent $3,000 on that. Custom-made, rush-ordered from some famous crystal artist." "A rather expensive threat," I remarked. "There's more. She's been meeting with her father's attorney, and she asked me to sign papers for a home equity loan yesterday. Said it was for renovations. When I refused, she didn't even argue. Because she has another plan," I concluded. "Has she mentioned the children attending the gala?" "She's already bought them outfits. Says it's important they meet their grandmother properly." A chill ran through me. "James, I want you to do something. Check the children's passports." "Their passports? Why would—" He stopped abruptly. "You think she's planning to leave the country with them? It's what I would consider in her position, facing exposure, divorce, potential financial ruin." The line went silent as James presumably went to search for the documents. When he returned, his breathing was rapid. "They're gone. Both passports plus birth certificates. And some of their clothes are missing. Not enough to notice immediately, but favorite items, comfort toys." My mind raced. When is she planning to attend the gala? We're supposed to arrive at 8 with everyone else. She's been talking about making a grand entrance. And the children? She insists they come with us, says it's a family occasion. I exchanged glances with Eleanor, who nodded grimly. "James, listen carefully. Caroline isn't planning to stay at the gala. She's going to use it as cover. Drop in briefly to establish her presence, then slip away with the children while everyone is distracted." "How can you be so sure?" "Because it's elegant," I said simply. "Everyone who matters in San Diego will be here. If she disappears afterward, people will assume she's still at the party for hours. By the time anyone realizes, she could be halfway to anywhere." "What do we do?" His voice had the controlled panic of a man whose worst fears were confirming themselves. "First, you say nothing to Caroline. Act normal. Second, call your attorney and alert him to the missing passports and documents. Third," I paused, considering, "bring the children to me today." "What? How?" "Tell Caroline you're taking them to buy her a surprise for the party. Bring them here instead. She'll never agree to let me take them alone. She hasn't let them out of her sight for days." I closed my eyes, thinking. "Then suggest a family outing, somewhere public. The children have never met me. She won't suspect if you suggest bringing them to the beach this afternoon. And you'll just happen to be there?" "Precisely. A chance encounter with their long-lost grandmother. Once we've met, it will be harder for her to keep them from me." James was quiet for a moment. "La Jolla Cove, 3 o'clock. There's a playground on the north end. I'll be there. I promised. After we hung up, Eleanor looked at me skeptically. You really think Caroline will fall for this? She's desperate and overconfident, a dangerous combination that often leads to poor judgment. Besides, she still doesn't know exactly what James knows. She's operating on incomplete information. And if she refuses to let him take the children, then we move to plan B. I picked up my phone again. Henderson, please connect me with Chief Sullivan. The police chief had been among the first to RSVP to the gala. His wife and I had served on the same hospital board in Boston years ago, a connection Caroline would have no way of knowing about. 3 hours later, I sat on a bench at La Jolla Cove, watching children play against the backdrop of crashing waves. Eleanor sat a discreet distance away, pretending to read. We'd arrived an hour early, positioning ourselves carefully. At exactly 3 o'clock, I spotted them. James, walking stiffly. Caroline, elegant in designer casual wear. And between them, 2 small figures, my grandchildren. My heart nearly stopped. Emma was tall for 7, with James's dark hair and thoughtful expression. Tyler was all energy, breaking away from his parents to race toward the slide. They were more beautiful than any photograph could capture. I remained seated, breathing deeply, waiting. James led them on a meandering path that gradually approached my bench. Caroline seemed distracted, checking her phone frequently, her posture tense. When they were within 10 feet, James stopped abruptly. Mom? Mom, is that you? I stood, arranging my features into surprised delight. James? What a wonderful coincidence. Caroline's head snapped up, her eyes narrowing as she registered my presence. James moved forward, embracing me warmly, a performance that felt startlingly genuine. Children, he said, turning to Emma and Tyler. This is your grandmother. My mother. Emma studied me with solemn eyes. Tyler simply asked, Are you having cookies at your castle party? I laughed, genuinely. More cookies than you can possibly eat. Martha, Caroline interrupted, her voice tight. What a surprise to find you here. I've always loved this beach, I said pleasantly. Would you mind if I joined you for a while? I've waited so long to meet my grandchildren. Before Caroline could object, Emma stepped forward. Do you really live in a castle? It's a very old house, I corrected gently, with a beautiful garden where children used to play many years ago. Can we see it? Tyler asked eagerly. Caroline's smile was brittle. Perhaps after the party, sweetheart. We should let grandmother get back to her preparations. Actually, James interjected, I think a quick tour today would be wonderful. The children have been so excited since they heard about it. I watched the calculation in Caroline's eyes, weighing the risk of refusing against the opportunity to see inside Harrington House before the gala. Curiosity won. Well, she said, if Martha doesn't mind, I would be delighted, I replied, meeting her gaze steadily. Family is always welcome at Harrington House. As we walked toward the parking lot, Emma slipped her small hand into mine. Dad says you have stories about when he was little, she whispered. So many stories, I promised, squeezing her fingers gently, and I've waited a very long time to tell them to you. Caroline watched this exchange with a carefully neutral expression, but I caught the flash of something dangerous in her eyes. She was recalculating, adapting her strategy. Let her, I thought. The game was changing, but the advantage was now mine. My grandchildren were no longer just names and photos. They were real, warm, curious little people who deserved protection from whatever their mother was planning. And I would protect them, whatever the cost. If this family drama has you on the edge of your seat, drop a comment telling us where you're watching from. Will Caroline's escape plan be thwarted? What will happen when the children see Harrington House for the first time? Subscribe now to make sure you don't miss the next chapter of this riveting story. Harrington House revealed itself as we rounded the final curve of the tree-lined drive. 3 stories of golden limestone glowing in the afternoon sun. Windows like watchful eyes. Gardens stretching toward the cliff's edge where the Pacific churned below. Wow, Emma breathed beside me. It really is a castle. Tyler bounced in his seat. Does it have secret passages? I smiled, remembering James asking the same question decades ago during his only childhood visit. A few, I admitted. This house has been standing for almost 100 years. It holds many secrets. Caroline's eyes darted everywhere, absorbing details, assessing value. The predatory focus in her gaze was unmistakable. James parked in the circular drive, and Henderson appeared immediately to greet us, his professional demeanor betraying no surprise at our unexpected arrival. "Welcome to Harrington House," he said, bowing slightly. "Refreshments have been prepared in the garden room." Caroline's eyebrows rose fractionally at this evidence of a well-orchestrated household. She'd clearly expected something less established. As we entered the grand foyer, Tyler gasped at the sweeping staircase. Emma stared upward at the domed ceiling with its hand-painted constellations. Even Caroline couldn't conceal her awe. "It's even more magnificent than people say," she murmured, trailing her fingers along a marble side table. "It's been in my late husband's family for generations," I explained, watching her reaction carefully. "Though it's changed hands occasionally, it always seems to find its way back to us." "How fortunate," Caroline replied, her smile not reaching her eyes. I led them through the main floor, the formal dining room with its table set for 30, the library with first editions behind glass, the music room where a grand piano gleamed under spotlights. Throughout, James watched his children's wonder with a joy I hadn't seen on his face in years. Caroline watched me, calculating, reassessing. In the garden room, a light afternoon tea awaited. Henderson had thoughtfully included cookies shaped like stars and moons, perfect for children. As the children settled with their treats, James drew me aside. "You've lived here all this time? Whenever you visited San Diego?" "No," I admitted quietly. "I could never bring myself to stay here after your father died. It reminded me too much of what we'd planned together. The house has been maintained, occasionally rented for exclusive events, but mostly it's stood empty. All these years," he murmured, "while Caroline and I lived in our house that she constantly complained was too small, too ordinary. Your father and I wanted you to build your own life," I reminded him, "not inherit ours ready-made. And I married someone who only wanted what was ready-made." The bitterness in his voice was palpable. Caroline approached, her smile brittle. "Such a lovely home, Martha. The children are absolutely enchanted." "I'm glad," I replied warmly. "I hope they'll visit often." "Of course," she said smoothly. "Family is so important. Which reminds me, James, didn't you want to show the children the gardens while I have a moment with your mother?" James hesitated, glancing between us. "An excellent idea," I encouraged. "The rose garden is particularly beautiful, even in December. Henderson can show you the way." After they departed, Caroline's facade dissolved like sugar in rain. "What are you doing?" she demanded, voice low and intense. "Having tea with my family," I replied calmly. "Is that a problem?" "You know exactly what you're doing. This house, the gala, appearing at the beach today, it's all calculated to undermine me." I sipped my tea. How insecure you must be, to see a grandmother meeting her grandchildren as some form of attack. Don't play innocent. I've done my research on you now, Martha Wilson. Boston society maven, silent partner in multiple companies, friend to senators and judges. You make me sound far more interesting than I am. Her laugh was harsh. The act might work on James, but not on me. You're trying to take my family apart. Your family? I set down my cup carefully. The family you've isolated from me for years? The husband whose career you've sabotaged? The children you're planning to take out of the country without their father's consent? Her face blanched. What are you talking about? The missing passports, Caroline. The packed favorite toys. The sudden interest in home equity loans. Did you think James wouldn't notice? She recovered quickly. That's absurd. I would never, wouldn't you? When faced with losing everything, the social position, the financial security, the control. You have no proof of anything, she hissed. Actually, I do. I smiled placidly. The beauty of wealth, Caroline, is that it buys excellent security services. I have records of your meetings with Michael Crawford, your visits to private banking institutions, the offshore account you've been establishing. This was a calculated bluff, but from the flash of panic in her eyes, it struck home. Whatever James has told you is distorted, she insisted. We've had problems, yes, but all marriages do. He's confused, possibly even having some kind of breakdown. His work has been so stressful. The work you prevented him from advancing in, I interjected, or the work where his mother is actually on the board. Caroline went very still. You're lying. Am I? Ask James about the board meeting last spring, the one where your name came up specifically as a potential liability to his advancement. Her composure cracked further. This is character assassination. You've poisoned him against me. No, Carolyn, You did that yourself, the moment you called his mother a stranger at Christmas. She leaned forward, voice dropping to a venomous whisper. You think you've won. You have no idea what I'm capable of. On the contrary, I replied evenly. I know exactly what you're capable of. That's why Chief Sullivan has been alerted about the missing passports. That's why the Border Patrol has the children's names flagged. That's why your father's attorney received a very interesting package of documents this morning detailing your extramarital activities. Her face drained of all color. You wouldn't dare. I already have, I said simply. The question is, what will you do now? Continue with a plan that's already compromised? Or find a way to salvage your dignity? Before she could answer, the garden doors burst open and Tyler ran in, face alight with excitement. Grandma, Dad says there's a treehouse in the big oak. Can we see it? I turned to him with genuine warmth. Of course, sweetheart. It was your father's favorite place when he was your age. Caroline watched, speechless, as I took Tyler's hand and led him back outside. In the garden, Emma was examining roses while James pointed out different varieties. The scene was so perfectly ordinary, so completely what I had dreamed of for years, that my heart ached with the fullness of it. You okay, Mom? James asked quietly, coming to stand beside me. Never better, I assured him, though I could feel Caroline's eyes boring into my back from the house. But we need to be vigilant. The storm hasn't passed yet. James nodded imperceptibly, then clapped his hands. Who wants to see the secret passage that leads to the beach? As the children cheered, I cast one glance back at Caroline, still watching from the garden room window. Her expression had changed from fury to something far more dangerous, calculation. The game wasn't over. It had barely begun. On the eve of the gala, Harrington House hummed with activity. Florists arranging white roses and silver eucalyptus, caterers preparing delicacies, staff polishing every surface until the entire mansion gleamed. I stood at the window of the master suite, watching the sun set over the Pacific, painting the sky in shades of amber and rose. My phone chimed with a text from James. Caroline hasn't come home. Told the children she had important errands this morning. No contact since. My stomach tightened. In the 3 days since our confrontation at Harrington House, Caroline had been unnervingly quiet. No more gifts. No more threats. She'd gone through the motions of daily life while radiating a cold fury that James said had made the house feel like it was filled with static electricity. Are the children with you? I typed back. Yes. Emma's reading. Tyler's building a fort with every pillow in the house. Bring them here tonight, I decided suddenly. Stay until the gala. Henderson has prepared guest rooms. His response came quickly. Already packed their bags. Caroline wouldn't know. We'll be there in an hour. I set the phone down, a mixture of relief and apprehension washing over me. Having James and the children safely at Harrington House eased one concern, but Caroline's disappearance raised another. She wasn't the type to simply vanish, to surrender without a fight. Whatever she was planning, it would be calculated for maximum impact. Eleanor appeared in the doorway, elegant in a silk robe, her silver hair freshly styled for tomorrow. James is bringing the children? I nodded. Caroline's gone missing. Eleanor's expression hardened. I've already spoken with security. The guest list has been verified 3 times. No one enters tomorrow without proper identification. She'll find a way, I said quietly. She's cornered, desperate, and has nothing to lose. She has her children to lose, Eleanor pointed out. I'm not sure she sees them that way anymore. They're leverage, assets. I turned back to the window. Did Henderson secure the East Wing as I asked? Yes. The children's rooms have the best security features in the house, and Chief Sullivan's wife mentioned he'll be arriving early to check security protocols, she said. Apparently there are concerns about an unwelcome individual. I smiled faintly. Barbara Sullivan always did understand discretion. An hour later, headlights swept up the drive. I hurried downstairs to find James ushering 2 pajama-clad children through the grand entrance. Emma clutched a book to her chest. Tyler dragged a stuffed dinosaur by one leg. Grandma! Tyler spotted me first, running across the marble floor to crash into my legs. Dad says we're having a sleepover before the party. I wrapped my arms around him, savoring the solidity of his small body. That's right. I have special rooms prepared just for you two. Emma approached more cautiously, studying my face with those solemn eyes so like her father's. Is Mom coming too? James and I exchanged glances over her head. Mom has some things to take care of before the party, he explained gently. She'll meet us here tomorrow. Emma nodded, accepting this with the weary resignation of a child accustomed to disappointment. My heart ached for her. Would you like to see your room? I asked, holding out my hand. It has a window seat where you can read and watch the ocean. Her face brightened slightly. Really? As Henderson showed the children to their rooms, James pulled me aside, his expression grim. She emptied our joint account, he said without preamble. Every penny. And she's been making calls to her cousin in Vancouver, Canada, I murmured. Smart. Less scrutiny than international flights. I think she's still planning to take them, James said, running a hand through his hair. Maybe not immediately, but soon. This disappearing act is just to throw us off guard. The children are safe here, I assured him. And by tomorrow evening, everyone who matters in San Diego will know exactly who Caroline Reynolds truly is. James looked troubled. Is public humiliation necessary? For the children's sake. This isn't about humiliation, James. It's about protection. Once the truth is known, Caroline loses her power, her social standing, her reputation, her ability to manipulate the narrative. All gone. And the trust fund? Harrington House? Are those just leverages too? I studied my son's face, seeing the conflict there. Despite everything, some part of him still cared for the woman he'd married, still hoped for a resolution that wouldn't destroy her completely. The trust fund is yours regardless, I said gently. It always has been. As for Harrington House, I've already begun transfer of ownership to you and the children. It was always meant to be a family home. Mom? It's time, James. Your father would have wanted this years ago. He swallowed hard, blinking back sudden tears. Thank you doesn't seem adequate. It never is, between family, I replied, squeezing his hand. Now, shall we see if the children have discovered the secret passage to the library yet? Tyler strikes me as a boy who finds hidden doors very quickly. Late that night, after the children were finally asleep, Tyler having required 3 bedtime stories, and Emma extracting a promise that she could help greet guests tomorrow, James and I sat in the library, firelight casting long shadows across leather-bound volumes. What do you think she'll do? He asked, staring into his whiskey. Come to the gala, I said with certainty. It's too important to her image to miss it. She'll arrive, play the devoted wife and mother, perhaps even attempt some grand reconciliatory gesture for public consumption. And then we reveal what we know, the affairs, the financial manipulation, the sabotage of your career, not to embarrass her, but to ensure she can't twist the narrative afterward. James nodded slowly. The recordings? The documents? Chief Sullivan will have them, as will your attorney, merely as protection. She'll fight the divorce, he predicted. Contest custody, drag it out for years. She might try, I agreed. But with what resources? Her family's influence has limits, especially against what we can bring to bear. A comfortable silence fell between us, broken only by the crackling fire. For the first time in years, I felt the easy companionship that had once been natural between us. I've missed you, James said suddenly. Even before Caroline, after Dad died, you changed, became more distant, more focused on business. I never understood why. The observation caught me by surprise. I had to be strong, I said after a moment. For both of us, the company was struggling. There were people who thought a widow couldn't handle it. I couldn't show weakness. And then I married Caroline, and you lost me too. I never lost you, I corrected softly. I just couldn't reach you for a while. His phone buzzed on the table between us. He glanced at it, his expression darkening. Caroline? I asked. He nodded, showing me the screen. Everything's ready for tomorrow. Tell your mother I'm looking forward to finally celebrating as a family. She's planning something, he said unnecessarily. Of course she is. I rose, straightening my shoulders. And so are we. As I climbed the stairs to my room later, I paused at the children's doors, listening to their soft breathing. These precious grandchildren I'd only just found. Whatever Caroline was planning, she would not take them from us again. Of that, I was absolutely certain. The Harrington House Gala, a social event to some, a battleground to others, was now less than 24 hours away. Harrington House blazed with light against the evening sky, every window aglow, spotlights illuminating the facade. Cars lined the circular drive, Bentleys, Maseratis, the occasional discreet limousine, as San Diego's elite arrived in waves of expensive perfume and designer formal wear. I stood at the top of the grand staircase, surveying the scene below. The foyer sparkled with thousands of tiny lights woven through garlands of pine and silver eucalyptus. Ice sculptures gleamed on tables laden with delicacies. A string quartet played in the corner, their music floating above the growing murmur of conversation. "You look magnificent," Eleanor said, appearing beside me in midnight blue silk. I smoothed the skirt of my silver gown, classic, elegant, with just enough shimmer to catch the light. "Is everything in place?" She nodded. "Chief Sullivan arrived 20 minutes ago. James's attorney is by the west entrance. The children are with Henderson in the family wing, watching holiday movies until their grand entrance at 9. And Caroline? No sign yet, but the night is young." James joined us, handsome in his tuxedo, though tension lined his face. "Half of San Diego is downstairs," he murmured, "including 3 people from my office who've never so much as nodded to me in the hallway." "Amazing what an invitation to Harrington House can accomplish," Eleanor remarked dryly. "Are you ready?" I asked James. He took a deep breath, "As I'll ever be." Together we descended the staircase. A subtle hush fell over the crowd as heads turned, conversations paused. I felt the weight of hundreds of eyes, the rapid reassessment happening behind polite smiles. Martha Wilson, not just the reclusive widow from Boston, but the owner of Harrington House, mother of James Reynolds, grandmother to his children. The mayor approached first, his wife resplendent in emerald satin. "Martha, what a delight to see you hosting again. Harrington House hasn't seen a gala like this in, 15 years? 16, I corrected with a warm smile. Far too long. "We've missed your influence in San Diego society," his wife added, her gaze sliding curiously to James. "I've been focused on family matters," I replied smoothly. "Speaking of which, may I properly introduce my son, James Reynolds?" The introductions continued for nearly an hour. Senators, judges, philanthropists, business leaders. Many knew James vaguely from professional circles, but seemed startled to discover his connection to me. I watched their expressions shift, mental calculations happening behind air kisses and handshakes. By tomorrow, everyone would know that James Reynolds wasn't just another mid-level executive, but the heir to Martha Wilson's considerable fortune and influence. It was nearing 8:30 when the atmosphere in the room subtly changed. Heads turned toward the entrance, conversations faltered. Caroline had arrived. She stood framed in the doorway, a vision in crimson. Her gown, clearly new, clearly expensive, clung to her slender figure before flaring dramatically at the knees. Diamonds glittered at her throat and wrists, pieces I'd never seen before. "New jewelry," Eleanor murmured beside me. "That's where some of the money went." Caroline swept into the room with practiced grace, accepting glasses of champagne and greeting acquaintances as if she attended galas at Harrington House every weekend. Her laugh tinkled across the space, her smile dazzling, the perfect political wife, the consummate socialite. When she finally approached us, her expression was one of pure delight. "Martha, what a spectacular evening. You've outdone yourself." "Caroline," I inclined my head slightly. "We weren't sure you'd join us. And miss the social event of the season? Never." She turned to James, placing a perfectly manicured hand on his arm. "Darling, have you seen the Hendersons? They were asking about that charity auction next month." James stiffened under her touch, but maintained his composure. "I believe they're in the conservatory." "We should say hello," she insisted, her grip tightening. "Family unity and all that." As she steered James away, she glanced back at me with the slightest smirk, a reminder that, for tonight at least, appearances mattered. She was still Mrs. Reynolds, still the mother of James's children, still his wife in the eyes of everyone present. Eleanor watched them go. "She's good. I'll give her that." "She's desperate," I corrected. "Look at her eyes." For all her poise, Caroline's gaze darted continuously around the room, assessing exits, tracking movements. A woman with an escape plan. At precisely 9 o'clock, Henderson appeared at the top of the staircase. The quartet stopped playing, and a gentle chime sounded through the room. "Ladies and gentlemen," Henderson announced, his voice carrying effortlessly across the now hushed crowd. "Mrs. Martha Wilson is delighted to present her grandchildren, Miss Emma Reynolds and Master Tyler Reynolds." The children appeared beside him, Emma lovely in a blue velvet dress, Tyler handsome in his first tuxedo. They had practiced this moment all afternoon, the careful descent of the stairs, the dignified pace. Yet their faces shone with genuine excitement as they spotted me waiting at the bottom. A collective awe rose from the assembled guests. I extended my hands to the children as they reached the final step, drawing them close. "Aren't they beautiful?" I said to the room at large, my voice carrying with surprising strength. After so many years of separation, having my grandchildren here in their ancestral home is the greatest gift imaginable. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. I caught fragments. Separation? Never knew. Family drama. As speculation spread like ripples in a pond, Caroline pushed through the crowd to reach us, her smile fixed, but her eyes blazing. "Children, don't you look wonderful?" She reached for Emma, who instinctively stepped closer to me. I noted the flash of hurt on Caroline's face, with a pang of unexpected sympathy. Whatever her failings, she was still their mother. "Perhaps," I suggested gently, "the children would enjoy showing their parents the ballroom before the dancing begins?" It was an olive branch, a moment of grace. Caroline recognized it as such, her expression flickering with surprise before she nodded. "What a lovely idea," she agreed. As the four of them moved toward the ballroom, I exchanged glances with Eleanor and Chief Sullivan, who nodded almost imperceptibly. Whatever happened next, the children would remain protected. I circulated among my guests, accepting compliments on the renovation, the food, the music, but my attention remained fixed on the ballroom entrance, waiting for what I knew must come. It arrived sooner than expected. A crash of breaking glass, a woman's raised voice, then James emerging with the children, his face tight with controlled anger. "Henderson," he called, his voice steady despite the tension radiating from him. "Would you please take Emma and Tyler for some hot chocolate in the kitchen?" As Henderson whisked the children away, James approached me, leaning close to whisper, "She's making her move. Now." At that moment, Caroline appeared in the ballroom doorway, her composure finally cracking. Her perfect hair had come slightly undone, her lipstick smudged at one corner. "James!" she called too loudly. "We need to discuss this like adults." The room fell silent, hundreds of eyes swiveling between husband and wife, sensing the drama unfolding in their midst. "There's nothing to discuss," James replied, his voice deliberately calm. "It's over, Caroline." She laughed, a brittle sound like breaking glass. "Over? You think you can just end our marriage because your mother fills your head with lies?" I stepped forward. "I believe it was your actions that ended your marriage, Caroline. The affairs, the financial deception, the sabotage of James's career." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Caroline's face flushed deep red. "How dare you?" she hissed. "In front of everyone." "The truth comes out eventually," I said simply. "Better here, among friends, than in a courtroom." Her eyes darted around the room, noting the avid interest on every face, the whispers already beginning. Her carefully constructed social image was dissolving before her eyes. "This isn't over," she said, voice dropping to a venomous whisper. "You have no idea what I've set in motion." With that cryptic statement, she turned and stalked toward the foyer. James moved to follow, but I caught his arm. "Let her go," I advised. "Chief Sullivan has officers outside. She won't get far." But as Caroline reached the grand entrance, the front doors burst open. A man in an expensive suit entered, flanked by two uniformed police officers. "Mrs. Reynolds," he announced loudly, "I have a warrant for your arrest on charges of embezzlement and wire fraud." The crowd gasped collectively. Caroline froze, her face draining of color. "Who?" she began. "Agent Harris, FBI," the man replied crisply. "Your transactions with offshore accounts triggered several flags in our system. Your father-in-law's company has filed formal charges." I felt James stiffen beside me. "Father-in-law's company?" he repeated. "Mom, what is he talking about?" "I made some calls," I said quietly. "The money she's been siphoning for years, it wasn't just from your joint accounts. She's been embezzling from Westridge Partners through a ghost vendor scheme." Caroline's gaze locked with mine across the crowded foyer. In that moment, I saw not just anger, but genuine shock. She hadn't known I was connected to Westridge, hadn't known I could trace her financial manipulations that far back. As the officers led her away, the crimson train of her gown trailing across the marble floor, the gathered elite of San Diego erupted into furious whispers. Tomorrow, The story would be everywhere. Caroline Reynolds arrested at the Harrington House Gala, her carefully constructed life exposed as a fraud. James watched her go, his expression unreadable. "You arranged this," he said finally. "The arrest, the timing, the public humiliation. Not the way you think," I replied. "I simply provided information to the proper authorities. The rest was Caroline's doing entirely." He nodded slowly, processing. "The children are safe, enjoying hot chocolate with Henderson." I touched his arm gently. "Go to them. They'll need their father tonight." As James headed toward the kitchen, Eleanor appeared at my side. "Well," she murmured, "that was more dramatic than even I expected." "It's not over," I warned. She meant what she said about setting something in motion. What could she possibly do now? She's been arrested, exposed, humiliated. "Caroline always has a contingency plan," I said, scanning the room uneasily. "Always." The morning after the gala dawned clear and bright, sunlight streaming through Harrington House windows onto scattered evidence of the previous night's spectacle. Forgotten champagne flutes, a single high-heeled shoe, programs listing dances that had never occurred after Caroline's dramatic arrest. I sat in the garden room, watching Emma and Tyler play on the lawn. They seemed remarkably resilient, accepting James's careful explanation that Mommy had to go away for a while, with the pragmatism of children who had perhaps sensed more of their parents' troubled marriage than adults realized. Henderson approached with a silver coffee service. "The San Diego Tribune has called 3 times this morning, Mrs. Wilson, as have several television stations." "No comment to any of them," I replied, adding cream to my coffee. "Where is James?" "Still on the phone with the attorneys, madam. In the library." I nodded, unsurprised. The legal machinery had been set in motion. Divorce proceedings, custody arrangements, the untangling of financial ties. Caroline had been released on bail in the early hours of the morning, collected discreetly by her father. She was under court order to stay away from James and the children, pending further hearings. Yet despite all this, a sense of unease clung to me like morning fog. Caroline's parting words echoed in my mind. "You have no idea what I've set in motion." My phone rang. "Eleanor." "Have you seen it?" she asked without preamble. "Seen what?" "Check your email, now." I opened my laptop, finding a message from Eleanor with the subject line, "Caroline's Revenge." Inside was a link to a newly published article in a prominent business journal. "Westridge Partners, the silent power behind the throne." My stomach dropped as I skimmed the piece. It detailed my connection to Westridge, my role on the board, the nepotistic promotion of my son, the shadowy financial dealings of the company. Quotes from sources close to the situation painted a picture of corporate manipulation and family favoritism. "She must have had this ready for weeks," Eleanor said when I called her back. "Insurance policy, set to publish if anything happened to her." "The timing is deliberate," I agreed grimly. "The morning after her public humiliation. How bad is it?" "Bad enough. Stock will take a hit. There will be calls for investigation, board restructuring." I paused. "James's position will be compromised. She can't take the money, so she'll settle for destroying reputations," Eleanor concluded. "It's actually rather brilliant," I admitted, a reluctant admiration coloring my tone. She knew exactly where to strike. James found me still sitting with the laptop open, the children now napping after their morning exertions. "You've seen it," he said, dropping into the chair across from me. "Yes." Richard Westridge called. "The board is meeting tomorrow for damage control." He ran a hand through his hair. "My career at Westridge is effectively over." "I'm so sorry, James." "Don't be." To my surprise, he looked more relieved than devastated. "I've never been happy there, Mom. The constant pressure, the political maneuvering. It was always Caroline's dream for me, not mine. What would you have chosen if you'd been truly free to decide?" He smiled faintly. "Architecture. Like grandfather. Designing spaces where people could build lives, create memories." My heart caught. Robert's father had been an architect, a passion James had shown from childhood, but abandoned for more practical pursuits after college. "It's not too late," I said softly, "for a 47-year-old to start over?" He laughed, but there was wistfulness rather than bitterness in the sound. "Your grandfather's trust fund," I reminded him. 12 million reasons it's not too late." Before he could respond, Henderson appeared at the doorway, his usual composure slightly ruffled. "Madam, Mr. Reynolds, there's someone at the gate. Ms. Caroline Reynolds. She's quite insistent on speaking with you. James and I exchanged alarmed glances. The children, he began, are safe with Eleanor in the East Wing, Henderson assured us. Security has been alerted. What does she want? I asked. She says she has information you need to hear about the article. I considered for a moment. Let her in. We'll meet her in the library. Mom, are you sure? James looked concerned. After everything, she can't hurt us anymore, I said, rising. The truth is already out, but I am curious what she thinks she has to say. Caroline entered the library 10 minutes later, a diminished version of the woman who had swept into the gala in crimson glory. She wore simple black slacks and a gray blouse, her hair pulled back severely, no makeup disguising the shadows under her eyes. Thank you for seeing me, she said formally, declining to sit when offered. What do you want, Caroline? James asked, his voice tight. To deliver a message, she replied, addressing me rather than her husband. The article this morning? It's just the beginning. Is that a threat? I kept my tone mild. A fact. My father has connections at the SEC. He's pushing for a full investigation of Westridge Partners, with particular attention to your role, Martha. By this afternoon, there will be formal inquiries. By next week, possibly federal charges. On what grounds? James demanded. Insider trading, conflicts of interest, creative accounting. She shrugged slightly. The usual suspects when a company falls under scrutiny. I studied her carefully. Despite her controlled demeanor, there was something almost feverish in her eyes, the look of someone running on adrenaline and desperation. And you came here to gloat? I asked. I came to negotiate. James laughed incredulously. Negotiate? You're facing embezzlement charges. You tried to flee with our children. What possible leverage do you think you have? The ability to make this go away, she replied simply. My father can call off the SEC. The article can be retracted. Westridge Partners can continue undisturbed. She paused. In exchange for dropping the embezzlement charges and a generous divorce settlement. I smiled, genuinely amused. You never stop, do you, Caroline? Excuse me? The scheming, the manipulating. Even now, backed into a corner, you're still trying to gain advantage. She lifted her chin. I'm trying to salvage something from the wreckage you've made of my life. The wreckage you created, James corrected quietly. Every step of the way. Perhaps, she conceded. But my offer stands. My father awaits your answer. I rose, walking to the library window where I could see Emma and Tyler now awake, playing on the lawn with Eleanor. Their laughter floated faintly through the glass. Tell your father thank you. But no, I said finally. Caroline's composure slipped. You can't be serious. The scandal will destroy Westridge, your reputation, James's career. Possibly, I agreed, turning back to face her. But you know what it won't destroy? This family, the one you tried so hard to tear apart. And Westridge Partners will survive, James added. Companies weather scandals every day. Besides, I continued, there's something you should know about those embezzlement charges. What? Caroline looked wary. They didn't come from Westridge Partners. They came from the FBI's Financial Crimes Unit, which has been investigating you for over a year. Your manipulations weren't as clever as you thought. The color drained from her face. You're lying. Call your father, I suggested gently. Ask him who originally tipped off the authorities. I believe you'll find it was your former assistant, the one you fired last year for incompetence. Caroline swayed slightly, the full implications hitting her. No corporate conspiracy, no vengeful mother-in-law, just her own actions returning to haunt her. The children, she said finally, her voice small. Will you keep them from me completely? For the first time, I saw beyond the manipulator to the mother, flawed, selfish perhaps, but still a mother. No, James answered, surprising me. They need their mother. Supervised visitation once the legal issues are settled. If you get help, demonstrate change. We can revisit the arrangement. Tears filled her eyes, the first genuine emotion I'd seen from her. Thank you, she whispered. As Henderson escorted her out, James turned to me. Was that weakness or wisdom? Compassion, I corrected, and it's never weakness. Later that evening, we gathered in the garden room, James, the children, Eleanor, and I, for a simple dinner of pasta and garlic bread. As Tyler regaled us with elaborate plans for the treehouse he wanted to build, and Emma shared discoveries from her exploration of the library, I felt a profound sense of rightness settle over me. The next weeks would bring challenges, legal proceedings, financial scrutiny, the inevitable tabloid interest in the Harrington House scandal. But here, in this moment, with my family finally reunited under one roof, none of that seemed to matter. James caught my eye across the table, raising his water glass in a subtle toast. "To new beginnings," he murmured. "And to promises kept," I added, thinking of the son who had once said, "See you at Christmas, Mom," a promise that had led us through darkness to this unexpected light. Outside the windows of Harrington House, the sun set over the Pacific, painting the sky in shades of promise. Whatever storms still lay ahead, we would weather them together, not as strangers, but as family. Thank you for joining us on this journey of betrayal, redemption, and the enduring power of a mother's love. If Martha's story touched your heart, please subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss another story. And remember, sometimes the strongest words we can say are the simplest. I am your mother. Words that can close doors or open them forever.
Trước khi kết thúc câu chuyện hôm nay, mình muốn dành thêm một chút thời gian để nói chuyện với bạn một cách thật chậm và thật lòng. Bởi vì những câu chuyện như thế này, nó sẽ không kết thúc khi video kết thúc. Nó ở lại, ở trong cách chúng ta suy nghĩ, ở trong cách chúng ta cảm nhận, và đôi khi ở trong cách chúng ta bắt đầu nhìn nhận nhau theo một cách khác. Câu chuyện hôm nay là về tình yêu, nhưng không chỉ là tình yêu đơn thuần. Đó là tình yêu phải đi qua khác biệt, đi qua những nghi ngờ, đi qua cả những rào cản mà thế giới đôi khi vô tình tạo ra. Và có lẽ chính vì vậy nó trở nên đặc biệt. Bởi vì nó không hoàn hảo, không dễ dàng, nhưng lại rất thật, theo một cách nào đó chạm đến những điều sâu bên trong mỗi chúng ta, mong muốn được kết nối, được thấu hiểu và được nhìn nhận đúng với con người mình. Và trước khi nói tiếp, mình cũng muốn chia sẻ một điều rất quan trọng. Mình biết rằng mình không phải là một người phụ nữ da đen, và mình cũng hiểu rằng những trải nghiệm, những cảm xúc, những câu chuyện đã truyền cảm hứng cho nội dung của kênh không phải là điều mình trực tiếp sống qua. Vì vậy, mình không kể những câu chuyện này với suy nghĩ rằng mình có thể đại diện cho họ. Mình kể vì mình tôn trọng. Mình kể vì mình tin rằng trong những câu chuyện đó có vẻ đẹp, có sức mạnh và có cả những giá trị xứng đáng được lan tỏa, ngay cả khi chúng ta đến từ những nền tảng khác nhau. Nhưng mình cũng hiểu với một số bạn, điều đó có thể khiến bạn cảm thấy không thoải mái. Và thật lòng mà nói, cảm giác đó là hoàn toàn hợp lý. Bởi vì những câu chuyện này không chỉ là giải trí, chúng gắn với lịch sử thật, những khó khăn thật, những cảm xúc thật. Nên mình luôn cố gắng không bao giờ tiếp cận chúng một cách hời hợt. Mọi thứ trên kênh này, dù là hư cấu, đều được xây dựng từ sự cẩn trọng, từ việc học hỏi, từ việc lắng nghe, từ việc cố gắng thấu hiểu. Dù mình biết rằng mình sẽ không bao giờ hiểu hết được tất cả mọi thứ. Và điều đó rất là quan trọng với mình, bởi vì mình không ở đây để nói thay ai cả. Mình cũng không ở đây để thay thế cho tiếng nói của bất kỳ ai. Mình ở đây như một người kể chuyện, một người tin rằng nếu câu chuyện được kể bằng sự tôn trọng và chân thành thì nó có thể tạo ra sự kết nối thay vì chia rẽ. Và điều đó thực sự có ý nghĩa với mình. Mình cũng muốn bạn biết rằng mình luôn học hỏi. Mỗi bình luận, mỗi góc nhìn, mỗi phản hồi mình đều đọc, đều suy nghĩ và cố gắng cải thiện. Vì vậy nếu có điều gì mình làm chưa tốt, mình luôn sẵn sàng lắng nghe. Không phải để tranh luận, không phải để bảo vệ cái tôi, mà là để hiểu hơn và làm tốt hơn. Bởi vì cuối cùng, kênh này không phải là chỉ về mình. Nó là về những gì chúng ta có thể cùng cảm nhận được. Là về một không gian nơi tình yêu không bị giới hạn bởi màu da, bởi định kiến hay bởi những khuôn mẫu mà xã hội đặt ra. Là về việc cho thấy rằng sự kết nối, một sự kết nối thực sự có thể tồn tại ngay cả trong những hoàn cảnh mà người ta nghĩ là không thể. Và có lẽ thế giới này cần nhiều điều đó hơn nữa, nhiều sự thấu hiểu hơn, nhiều sự đồng cảm hơn, nhiều sự cởi mở hơn để nhìn nhau như những con người trước khi nhìn vào sự khác biệt. Vì vậy, khi bạn xem xong video này, mình không chỉ muốn bạn nhớ câu chuyện, mình muốn bạn nhớ cảm giác mà nó mang lại, những khoảnh khắc khiến bạn dừng lại, những khoảnh khắc khiến bạn suy nghĩ, bởi vì chính những điều đó mới thực sự có ý nghĩa. Nó nhắc chúng ta rằng dù chúng ta khác nhau về xuất phát điểm, về văn hóa, về trải nghiệm, chúng ta vẫn có thể kết nối với nhau theo những cách vượt qua tất cả những điều đó. Và đó là một điều rất mạnh mẽ. Nếu câu chuyện này đã chạm đến bạn, dù chỉ một chút thôi, thì cảm ơn các bạn rất nhiều vì đã ở lại đây với mình. Cảm ơn các bạn vì đã lắng nghe, đã cảm nhận và đã là một phần của không gian này. Và mình hy vọng các bạn sẽ tiếp tục đồng hành cùng mình trong những câu chuyện tiếp theo. Những câu chuyện về tình yêu, về sự can đảm và về sức mạnh của việc dám kết nối trong một thế giới đầy rào cản. Hẹn gặp lại các bạn ở những câu chuyện tiếp theo. Hãy giữ cho trái tim mình luôn rộng mở và đừng bao giờ đánh giá thấp sức mạnh của một tình yêu dám vượt qua mọi giới hạn. Bye!